Hi, I'm Tiffany of Tiffany Brown Designs. With over 20 years of creative experience across industries, I create and elevate brands one design at a time through intentional graphic and brand design, polished film and video editing, and creative artistry. Even the music you're hearing right now, that was produced by me. I also create custom tracks for websites, intros and outros, and content. So what are you waiting for? Visit TiffanyCBrownGD.com and let's bring your vision to life.
Welcome to the Off Balance Podcast, where faith, family, and business collide with your host, Dr. Brooks Deming, Christian life coach, intercessor, and entrepreneur.
Welcome to Off Balance, the podcast where faith, family, and business collide, and we navigate it all with grace and grit. I'm your host, Dr. Brooks. Today on Off Balance, we welcome Stéphane Akoki, a writer, social entrepreneur, and speaker whose story embodies resilience, faith, and purpose. He was born in Côte d'Ivoire. Stéphane's path has taken him from deep poverty and betrayal to becoming the first Ivorian graduate of Brigham Young University Marriott School of Business. Along the way, he faced unthinkable challenges, but chose faith over fear, learned Mandarin, and rebuilt his life from the ground up. Today, he leads Elevate Côte d'Ivoire, a nonprofit creating pathways to education and job opportunities for Ivorians. So please welcome to the show, Stéphane.
Hello.
Hi, Stéphane. How are you today?
Doing great. How about you?
I am doing so well, and I am so excited to have you on the show. So if you could just give a brief introduction of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks so much for having me on the show. So Stéphane here. I am from Côte d'Ivoire, born and raised. I'm currently the founder and CEO of Elevate Côte d'Ivoire, which is an organization that empowers Ivorians and then Africans to rise above poverty through education and job and entrepreneurial opportunities. Like I said, born in Côte d'Ivoire, spent most of my life there, experienced civil war when I was 12 years old. So faced lots of challenges from poverty to insecurity and civil wars to living in China where I was scammed, and then found my way here in the US via scholarship, through resilience and persistence. And I was able to create a wonderful life here in Saratoga Springs, Utah.
You have such a unique story of just overcoming and being resilient. So can you share a defining moment or experience from your journey that led you to where you are today, particularly in the context of overcoming adversity?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I was just reflecting on my journey and all the phases and all the steps I've taken. So I would say it's a hard question to answer, to be honest. I think there's just so many little moments and that you're like, oh, wow, like this, I am more capable of doing, I'm more capable than I thought I was. And I was able to overcome this adversity. But I think it starts for me on my belief in God, my faith in God. I was very fortunate to be born and raised in a country where everyone believes in God. We greet in the name of God. We're grateful for the little blessings that we get. So that has built a character of gratitude. It's also built a character of I'm not alone in this journey because God is always with me. I would say like that. I want to reflect on that moment when I landed in Washington, D.C. That was in September 2014. I was asleep for such a long flight. I'd flown from China to Ivory Coast, 25 hours. Then a couple of days later, I flew 30 hours through Italy, Ethiopia, and all to the US. It's been like 50 hours. I was exhausted. And I remember I was some of those Nigerian folks that were coming home to the US and they were like, wake up, we're in America. Wake up, we're in America. And I remember looking at the window, I was like, oh my goodness, like just feeling a sense of like pride and gratitude. And I'm in the land of opportunity. And it just felt like nothing was impossible at that point. Because at that point, I just looked through what I had experienced in China, and I looked through the Civil War and all the opportunity that I did not have throughout my life. And then I remember actually getting to the airport, getting on Skype and calling my mom and saying, we're never going to be poor again. And she was like, what did you see over there? I was like, no, just the feeling of being here and just thinking about every failure that was overcome by the grace of God. I just felt invincible at that moment. And I just knew that there was nothing that was going to come on my way that I and God couldn't overcome.
That's awesome. So when you moved to the United States and you pursued education, did you have the idea of your nonprofit in your mind then, or was that something that was birthed later in your journey?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I would say the desire has always been in me. So it started off early in my journey when I was still in Côte d'Ivoire, and I'd served a religious mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Ghana for 2 years. And I've returned right when I returned was the end of our final, what we call the grand finale of our war. So the country was in really bad shape. And thinking, okay, what am I going to do? My university got severely damaged during the war, so it was closed down, and there just wasn't much opportunities there. So I became what we call a necessity entrepreneur. Started selling anything I could on the street, from like socks to like shoe polish items to ties, and eventually to home appliances and all that. It was hard, but I could make some money, and that helped the family then. And I remember friends asking me, telling, hey, how are you doing it? Like, how are you making money? I feel like there's nothing in this economy. So it made me reflect on, what am I doing different that perhaps my friends are not doing, or they don't have knowledge of, that is helping me at least survive while they're like completely struggling. So that's where the Elevate idea came from. As in, I remember having, it was a dream, maybe I think it was, this idea of, okay, I feel like there's 3 things somebody needs to be able to thrive in a very hard economy. And at its core is education, essentially. But what I had was English that I learned in Ghana. And English helped me with side hustles, teaching English, creating English materials. So I felt like learning English has opened a world of opportunities to me. So learning English was what I was thinking of as in terms of education-wise. Also having computer skills. While everyone was selling on the streets, I modernized the hustle by posting on Facebook. Now it's, the marketplace. No, it's way back when, before the marketplace existed, we had these groups where you could go post things and sell things directly. So instead of being on the hot sun all day long, I would just post things and grow the audience there, and then wait and see. That was before ads and all those fancy things they have these days. And then people call and I'll just go deliver it. And my mom would be like, wait, what? You're here all day. Aren't you going to hustle or do some work? I was like, oh, I'm working. She was like, what do you mean you're working? I was like, no, I'll just wait and see. And then I'll go for a bed. I come back. She was like, where did you go? I was like, well, I sold my merchandise. The internet, mom, it's miracles. So it felt like having a technical skill on top of the English skills, and also having, I think the final thing was a sort of like a craft that you could learn, whether it's like sewing clothes or any sort of vocational skills you could add on top. So that was the rough idea. Can we get education people so they have the skills it takes them to get out of poverty? As I've seen firsthand, that sending out clothes hasn't really helped. Sending out shoes and all the things that I think people of good wills have been trying to help with hasn't really helped. But I have no idea how to get there. I never started a nonprofit, or I didn't have any experience with it. So going to China was very beneficial. I've seen the process they've gone through and learned from them. 30, 40 years ago, China was just as poor as many African countries. Then they've completely changed their narrative. And that was inspiring. The hard work, the innovation and all. Then I came to the United States, and it was like, okay, now I've gone from developing to quite advanced in the path of development of China, and then fully developed nations like the United States. So like a combination of that experience was like, okay, I think I have a sense of what I can do. And then combined with research and networking with people here, Elevate started. It actually started right when I got here. I just reflected on my journey, and I can tell a bit more about it. And I thought something needs to be done. And I just couldn't wait to start it. So I started Elevate right away when I was here.
I can imagine that being in a civil war, going through that, losing a lot, I can imagine that the mindset of the people was probably down. So how did they receive your idea to come in and to help them with employment and to help them with education and job opportunities? Was that perceived immediately, or did you have to get buy-in?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard. It's really hard because essentially you're right. When you live there, you're just trying to get by a day, just a day at a time. My mom and I we always have this, I'll say I don't know how many times we recited the same scripture when the Lord said, worry not about about tomorrow. Because if the Lord can take care of nature, he can take care of you. And that was every day, because it was always like, what are we going to eat tomorrow? That was a question constantly. Naturally, when you bring an idea like this, which is more of a long-term play, people are like, can I eat today? What can you give me now? And it is tough. It is still hard. And that's why we started off with entrepreneurship. And we learned that entrepreneurship is much more of a longer game, like a long-term game. And it was challenging because it's, okay, you want me to grow my business, you want me to increase my savings, you want me to do all these principles of the entrepreneurship, but then my uncle or my son gets sick. Then I have to spend all my capital to go solve that problem. It's one class I took said, one professor said, being poor is risky. And it's true. It's very high risk because you have low capital and but lots of problems that could come up. So every time we help a business person, then it'll fail because capital is spent, which totally understandable. So with employment, what we've done is how can we get people trained as fast as we can? So then the weight of is a lot lower before they could get something stable. And we've seen that. And then the powerful thing that comes from employment, that's why I love employment so much, is it brings that stability instantly. So when they start worrying about the next meal, then all the innovation and incredible things can happen. One example of that is Ruth from Nigeria that I love to quote. She was struggling with 3 years, a single mother of 2, struggling with 3 different jobs that were still not paying the bills and helping the kids go to school. With employment, we're able to 7x her income, while as she's working as a virtual assistant with an American company. And that transformed her life. They moved to a new place. The kids went to private school. And it's just amazing to see the ripple effect. And now she owns a poultry farm. And so like just giving her that stability solved the immediate problems that comes from the inherent poverty. And now she's thinking bigger. She's thinking, I think she was saying how much she wants to open a park, a children's park or something. And it's incredible to see that you could go from, I don't know what I'm going to eat tomorrow, to now I want to build those big things. And so entrepreneurship is so much easier when you have that runway. We learned it the hard way by trying entrepreneurship first and realize, oh, you got to eat today. And then tomorrow I can think about a big business idea, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Are you ready to take your personal or professional growth to the next level? Introducing my tailored coaching experience, a personalized journey designed to help you achieve your goals and unlock your full potential. With 3 in-depth 90-minute coaching calls, we'll work together to create a customized plan tailored specifically to your unique needs and aspirations. Whether you're navigating a career transition, launching a business, or seeking clarity in your personal life, this program is designed to guide you towards success. With actionable strategies and unwavering support every step of the way, you'll receive a coaching roadmap, a personalized step-by-step plan to keep you focused and aligned with your goals. Take the first step toward your transformation by visiting brooksdeming.com.
Yeah, so I was reading your story and I saw that you were stranded in China. Can you give us a little background on that and how did that happen?
Yeah, that's a fun one. A fun one now I can say. It was so fun. It was like related to all the struggles that were happening. Come home from Ghana, university's destroyed. I'm like, oh boy, that's not fun. Then I try to go to private school. They're saying $2,000 a year. That I can't afford that. And that's about $1 million locally. And for context, the average person makes about $100 a month. So it's just impossible to save enough to get there. So then I tried scholarships because I had decent grades in high school. Then you got to pay bribes. So then you're like, if I pay the bribes, how do I pay for the remaining school fees that I can? It's a chicken and egg problem where you cannot get to school. So I wasn't able to go to school for an entire year because we couldn't afford that. Then eventually get to a school that is affordable, but affordable also means bad quality. It's no professors don't show up in class. Computers, I was in a technical computer school, but there was no working computers. Super funny. And all these challenges. And at the end of the day, my parents are like, we got to get you out of here. Everything we've tried hasn't worked. So China comes as an opportunity through a friend. And it was a local agency that was sending students to study in China for better educational opportunities. So I was like, that makes sense. And that education was supposed to be in English. So it's an easier transition. And so my parents took bank loans because they didn't have the cash that I paid for a very long time, unfortunately. I paid that agency. I was supposed to cover the 4 years education and then computer science degree education. Then I get to China September 2014. Then the plan was to have the school welcome me and all. No one is at the airport. And I'm by myself. I don't speak Mandarin. I decide, hi, my name is. It turned out wasn't very helpful. And then no one shows up. Then it's this like fight to survive, eventually find a school. It exists, which was like, okay, that's great. The school at least exists. But then they tell me the program doesn't exist. They tell me the money that we paid never made it there. So I was quickly kicked out of the school because I couldn't afford to pay the boarding and all. And so I had to figure out a way to stay there. So that's the setup of how we were scamming. And I and three other friends also were in the same victim of the same scam where the agency registered us. I think it was like $50. And then it took all the thousands of dollars that we gave them for the boarding and the education. Plus the program did not exist. So that was the stage of the 1 year survival in China.
Wow, that is interesting. Just by your story, I can tell that Ivorians are very resilient. So what practical lessons about resilience and adaptability did that season in China teach you, and how do you apply them today?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say it starts with faith in God, faith that He's done things before for you, and He always will be by your side. So I think connecting that to remembering the past, remembering the times where, you had challenges, whether for us it was through the war or through poverty and not knowing when the next meal will come, and then the next day and the next day's a meal, and you're like, oh my goodness, that was a miracle. And then the next day and the next day. And it's really hard, honestly. It's not, I wouldn't say it's an easy thing, but I think it helps to think that, yes, I have seen evidence in the past where regardless of the challenges, there is something better, something to aspire to. So keeping hope, you don't know the outcome. I would say that's like a big part of it. And remembering the things of the past. And I would say also just taking one thing at a time. When I landed there, my first thing was, okay, I got to find a school. And then when I found a school, when they're like, okay, this thing is not working out, then is how do I make this work? So then working with the school and how I needed to do something with the visa to stay there. How do I make that work? Then it was like, how do I eat? And then how do I find a place to stay? So it was really taking one step at a time. And in that journey, acknowledging that it's hard. Like it's not, you don't just brush it off and be like, oh, it's easy. You're in a country where you don't speak the language. You don't know what you're doing. You're by yourself alone. Like it is a hard thing. So acknowledging the hard things. Yes, this is not easy. This is hard. But I just have to take it one day at a time. Else it's just too crushing. Think about all the pressure of food, housing, what am I going to do? What am I going to study? So I think taking one day at a time, remembering the good things and that have happened in the past and having faith to, again, keep going as God is writing your story, as He can change your narrative, but you have to act every single day to be able to do that.
That is really good. So through Elevate, you're helping others rise above. I know you say poverty, but I really don't like poverty. I just don't like that word. It's like a negative connotation. And sometimes when people think of poverty, they think of people that are not worthy or valued. So I don't like saying that, but I put it in this question to pose it to you. Yeah. How did your struggles shape the vision for the work? And what do you hope will be your lasting impact on the people that you serve?
Yeah. And I like that point you made about poverty. In fact, our mission statement doesn't have the word poverty in it, and that was very intentional. It has the word prosperity, as in this is where we want us to be. Yes, you're right. I read books about poverty and all that. I was like, I wish there was a different word. But I think what I've been saying to people is probably like economic poverty. There's definitely types of poverty. It's just like you don't have the financial means to afford certain things, but the culture is so rich. The faith is so rich. The community is so rich. And I think we're rich in so many different ways. And it's that richness, honestly, that has carried me through those challenges. To the specific answer about what's the end for Elevate is how, again, it started with how can I make sure that the next generation doesn't have to struggle I did? How do I ensure that the youth that have dreams there, that are hardworking, that I want to make a living for themselves, and don't have to go through those challenges. And that's why I want to take this opportunity to talk about Elevate University. We're bringing the opportunities at home. So we're telling our youth and our people, you don't have to lead to if you want to live the dream that you want. You can live your African dream where you're at. We're working 4 countries right now: Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, and Uganda. And we had also done education in other African countries, but we're telling them, no, what does the dream look like for you where you're at? And we can bring that to you. We can bring the employment that will pay you 5-10 times more than the average so you can have a comfortable life. And we're bringing Elevate University. And what that is, we're bringing the world-class education at home. Why did I have to leave? Because I could not find that education in a way that was affordable and also that was free of bribes and corruption. So we're bringing a university starting Cote d'Ivoire for campus. We're opening next year, and that will have an element of what are the best things I've seen in the world. And I'm so grateful for my journey. I've seen how China has turned the country around. I've seen the United States and the Industrial Revolution and its impact in the economy here and all the things that great minds, immigrants impact in this nation. Immigrants from all over the world have come here and created this beautiful country and done this fantastic impact. And how do we bring that knowledge and that experience to our people there? Because I feel so fortunate. I go back and I see that world in a different lens because I've seen other countries, other cultures, and there's so much we can learn from them. So that's what Elevate University is going to be telling, hey, you can learn mechanical engineering. You can be the best computer scientist at home. It's going to be affordable and you don't have to bribe. You don't have to go to corruption. It will be based on merit. And it will be made to empower the people first, but also be made and designed to empower the country as a whole. So Africans can solve African problems and spread that impact to the continent.
See, that is so awesome because a lot of the times when I see people come from different countries and they come to the United States and they get educated, they get the education, but they stay. And so with Elevate University, you are going to have an opportunity to keep that intellectual knowledge, that property, those diverse skill sets in your actual country. That's going to be amazing. Like that is really going to transform the footprint for next generations to be able to thrive. Like the Civil War will be a thing that you would literally have to remind them of, this is where we came from, because it will be so prosperous there. So that's such a good idea to do that.
Thank you.
So what made you think to do that? That is such a witty idea. I always pray and say, God, give me a witty idea. That is such a witty idea to branch off and do a university.
Thank you. We can only thank God for all the beautiful ideas. And I go to him and say, Lord, I want to help. I want to help my people. And combined with studying and researching, looking around, studying Singapore, studying China, the Asian tigers, we call them, studying the United States. And they all have a common pattern. They invested in education. They've designed education to solve their problems. And that's a challenge we're having with development overall. I think a lot of the organizations are trying to solve it from a foreign perspective. I think it needs to be solved by local hands. It needs to be solved with local education with the knowledge and the richness of the world. So when we started, and again, back to your question, when we started off, me and my board members were not educators. I'm a computer guy, a product manager in my day job, and I run this organization as a volunteer. And they are entrepreneurs, real estate entrepreneurs, and other ventures. But we saw the first and the power of bringing skill sets, bringing training, and how it's transformed elevated their mindsets, elevated the way they do things, and help with their careers and then their personal growth. And we've done English training, and it's helping people in their career again, opening opportunities. And we're like, you know what? There has to be take it to a bigger step, bigger level, because our goal is to impact the continent. How can we change the life of millions? And education is where you start. Because we have real challenges. We have hard problems to solve. Infant mortality rate is high, one of the highest in the world. You have malaria that still continues to claim the life of millions of people. I've experienced it. It's not great. You have food security challenges. We have a continent that has 60% of the arable lands in the world, yet we fail to feed our own selves. There's so many things that the Lord has blessed us with, so many resources. How do we turn those resources and create a prosperity for us? And I think the answer is we need to train the right people. We need to train the right skill set. And that's what Elevate University will be designed to do in its first iteration, which is we looked at, okay, what are the problems? So we flipped the script instead of let's train for jobs, which is a good thing, or let's train what any university does. But instead we said, what problems does the country and the continent have today? And then from there, work backward and say, what degrees can solve those problems? And now then look around the world and be like, who are the very best people at this specific skill set, whether it's the Americans, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Indians, and then learn from them. And then let's bring it home and then transform our country.
That's really good. So you mentioned that you were in 4 of the nations in there. I think you guys have like over 50, like 53, 54. So is it in Africa, right? It's 54 nations or something like that?
Yeah, 54 countries. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it your plan to eventually to be across the entire continent, or?
Yes, that would be the absolute dream. With the time and resources, we would love to have a presence in all 54. What we've been doing is we've kept that large vision in mind. And we started off Côte d'Ivoire at first. And it was like, okay, let's get it going. Let's see how it works. And quickly we found ourselves in Ghana, and in Nigeria, and in Uganda, and then other places. But what we're doing is we're building a blueprint. We're building a template, an African template of development that we could share to other nations, to other governments, if they're willing. Hey, look, this works. Creating jobs, bringing jobs, remote jobs in your nation brings more money to the economy. It does increase the lifestyle of your citizens, but also the community, because the people that are getting jobs that are paying 6-7 times more than the average, they're spending locally. I'm sure, the little shop that is by my friend's Ruth, the shop owner is very happy because like, Ruth, suddenly you're buying a lot here. What has changed in your life? Because Ruth now has a job that pays more. So we're hoping to create, I guess, that blueprint that we at its core education, jobs. We have other pillars. We want to get into healthcare. We want to get into shelter. We want to get into essentially how do you create a better life for a community, essentially. But it's a large endeavor. And if you want to do it at scale of millions of people, it's a very difficult problem to solve. We have lots of cultural diversity, different languages, different tribes. And that makes it even more exciting, but definitely keeps me up at night because it's a very hard problem to solve. But we're excited to start small, and then we're just growing and learning as we go.
So how are you staying humble? Because to come from experiencing civil war, experiencing not knowing like what you're going to eat, and then you were able to travel to all of these different places, and then you ended in the United States. In the United States, although we have some economic issues, for the most part, you literally can have whatever you want at your fingertips. So how are you staying humble to not forget where you came from?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the question I ask myself all the time. And you're right. Yeah, I remember my beautiful, very lovely host family as a student that were willing to let me stay with them, and Jill and Dave Van Langveld. And I remember my first couple of weeks, I would go to the kitchen and I would just open the fridge and look. And they would always be like, you did something? I was like, no, I'm good. I was just in awe to see that one less thing to worry about. And it's just food and it's available. I remember I would always, and Jill I call her Mom Jill. She's very perceptive. I'll always fill my cup half the way there. And then one time she noticed, she was like, we have more. And I was like, I just can't get over the fact that there's so much. I was trained in scarcity, and I always think, okay, can't have too much, because you got to think about the next person, you got to think about the next day. But that was a hard mental shift. So I had to shift from scarcity to more of a prosperity and abundance mindset. But it's hard also to remain, like you mentioned, like humble to like, okay, this is where I come from, because it's easy to forget. But I think, honestly, it's a lot of remembering, and going home has helped a ton. I've been here. It took 10 years before I could sort out visas and all, before I could go home. It's too long. But going home was like super, super helpful. And it's staying grounded to, through my friends or my family that's still there and hearing the reality and all, and also elevate people that we work with, because it's easy to forget. You get into this world where, like the rat race, you go to business school and everyone talks about 6-figure earning. And you're like, okay, I should shoot for that. You have the nice car, you have the nice house, and you forget that, making $200 a month used to be a lot to me. Like, I remember my first job was making $8 an hour, and I called my mom, I was like, we're so rich, you have no idea. I quickly learned that wasn't very much money. But I think it's just like remembering those experiences, reading even through my own memoir and the journals and all, and just kind of smiling at, wow, like we've come a long way. That's something my mom and I always say to each other. We've come a long way, and we are grateful for all the things that were brought to us. And every time I go home, it's a stark reminder of those things. Hey, I have so much, and I'm so grateful for all the things that I have. And I try to remind people around me too. Like I used to tell my friends in college, hey, let me tell you, it could be a lot worse than you think. It's not that bad. I'm sure they hated me for saying that, but I was like, because we've seen some pretty terrible things over life. But I am also grateful. If I were to, I say often that if I were to re-architect my life, I would tell God, you know what? I'm so happy that I started where I started. As a kid, if you ask me, I was like complete opposite. This place sucks. Like, I don't want to be here. But as a grown adult looking back, I'm like, it was designed perfectly, because now I can admire and I can enjoy the little things here. Then grapes used to be a luxury when I was growing up. Like, now when I eat grapes here, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And my it's just grapes. No, it's not just grapes. It's a luxury. So I wouldn't have been able to appreciate life and the blessing of wealth if I had not started where I started. So for that, I thank God all the time. It's like this, he architected the perfect life for me.
That is awesome. And that's such a blessing. So now in Côte d'Ivoire, what's the infrastructure like? What is as far as, were you guys able to rebuild? Did you guys bring in like new industry, or is it still a progress?
Yeah, still in progress. So I'll say, thank goodness, we've moved away from civil war and those challenges. The country is very stable now. I took my board members about a year and a half, 2 years ago there, and then they were like surprised by how safe it was. And it's very nice. People are friendly and all, which is great. It enables investors, people like us, to go back and do things. We still struggle with some of the things that plague the continent. Corruption is still there, unfortunately, and so we have to navigate that. But there's still a huge need for technological or the more development effort. Huge need. When even again, after 10 years, I've seen a lot of progress, lots of roads being built and lots of the physical infrastructure. The government has done a good job that way, but there's still unemployment is still high, corruption is still high, and the life of the individual person hasn't improved significantly. And so there's still a need for the things that we're doing. And one thing we've done or we're piloting is helping with agriculture. For example, investing in rice farming. Rice is a main staple dish of Côte d'Ivoire. I was shocked to see that farmers were still using machetes. And I was like, wow, I mean, this is crazy. I thought at this point we'll be more modernized, using tractors and all that. And so we've been working with farmers, bringing equipment to help mechanize their farming. And we've connected that to our cause, actually, where we as an organization own rice farms that produce rice that is sold at market value. And we use our surplus to donate to orphanages, single mothers, and people that need it the most. They're making us more as a sustainable organization. So we have less need to rely on donors for like basic necessity. Because as much as we want to do long-term investment into the individual, like I mentioned, on a day-to-day, you have orphans, you have single mothers, widows that are struggling to even provide a meal, and we want to make sure we're there for them. But like we want to take it to the next level. More development, more mechanization will mean reducing the price of rice overall, making it affordable for all. So those are a lot of the things that we're trying to do from the perspective of development. But there's so much work. And to think about Côte d'Ivoire alone, I was like, there's so much work to do there. And then to think about the continent, there are other countries that even have less infrastructure, less opportunities that Côte d'Ivoire is blessed with. So it's quite a lot to do, but it also makes it really exciting.
So you have a lot of short-term and long-term goals for Elevate Cote d'Ivoire. How can someone partner with you if they wanted to donate, whether it be resources or if it be monetary or even if it be like volunteering with their intellectual knowledge? So how can someone partner with you to help you with your vision for your organization?
Yeah, thank you. And we thank you for the opportunity again. Like we love partners. The vision is so large. There's so much that me and my two board members can do. And we're looking at partners from all angles, like you've mentioned. Elevate.org is our website. So we're looking for mentors that are willing to train in particular skills for the community members, the Elevate community members. More skills means more opportunities for jobs, means more income, more prosperity for our people. For Elevate University specifically, we're looking for if you have any educational experience, whether professor or an admin roles you've had in the past, we'll love to have you come help us. And because as I mentioned, we're not educational people, so we're surrounding ourselves for people that have that experience and are willing to help, whether it's from a teaching remotely perspective or just structuring the university. That's at the stage at which we're at right now. We're building curriculums. So we're doing a bit of phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 is the legal setup and getting accredited. So that's happening now. We just raised money for that, which we're super excited. Thank you. We're thanking all of our donors and partners who raised money for phase 1, and we're doing that. Now we're looking at phase 2, which is curriculum development. And on oneelevate.com, you'll see all information about the university. So like I said, you could donate your time, you could donate also money, where we will start raising for phase 2 soon. Right now, not at the moment, but we'd love to just have people come, volunteer, and help us in this journey. At some point, we'll also even be raising, not raise per se, but people could donate. I've heard people reach out to me and say, hey, can I donate an old computer, an iPad, and all those things? Like at some point in the process, when we're closer to opening the campus, we'll get to that as well. But anything that really can help. And I like to say that because of the need is so great that it doesn't take a ton to create a super environment for our students. Like people are used to go into colleges where computers don't even work. So if you have a working computer, that's a big plus. Yeah. So we're excited about this. And again, it takes a lot. There's a lot of work and a lot of things that needs to be done from that perspective. But yeah, that's for that reason. We appreciate anyone that's willing to volunteer. And it's oneelevate.org. And then we'd love to have you join our team and make an impact in the lives of millions.
Yes, so I will make sure that I put that information in the description of this episode so that you guys can reach out. I will try to add it here, but it may not show because of my banner. But there it is. So oneelevate.org. So
Perfect.
Please reach out to this organization because they are doing great things in their continent. And it's very important to educate. It's very important to employ. And it's also very important to give people some type of hope and to show them that they are not discarded. That's why I don't like the word poverty, because when we say poverty, people think of discarded things. People think of lack of value. No, these are people that have pride in their continent, pride in their communities. And so these are people that deserve a chance, right? Because all we need is the opportunity. And when we have an opportunity, we can flourish within that space. And so I was so excited to just read about the things that Elevate Côte d'Ivoire is doing and just the vision and just the long-term sustainability that your organization is going to have. And so it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. So I have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
So you talked about this when we talked about resilience, but how do you define and cultivate resilience in your life? And what advice do you have for our listeners on developing their resilience when they too face any type of challenges?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I would say again, like starting with hope, keeping hope despite the uncertainty and the challenges that you're facing, and taking one step at a time, one day at a time, solving the problem you have right in front of you. And then if you believe in God, believe in the universe, believe that everything out there is designed for you to succeed. As much as doors closes, as much as you're getting rejected and all, there are people rooting for you. So I'll say that leads to my second point, like ground yourself in your community, then the people that believe in you. And in my journey, there were just incredible people that I call angels today, from either Côte d'Ivoire to China and to here, that have been there for me and then supporting me and pushing me forward. And obviously, like it makes hindsight is 2020. I go back and read my journals in China, and I was like, it sounds like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I guess I'm doing this. So it looking back, it looks like, oh yeah, it seems like you are a clear path, but it's never that way. But it was really the faith to take one step at a time. Like I said, start with food, worry about food today, then worry about shelter the next day, then worry about how you're going to learn Mandarin, and then all the other things that came with it. But like keeping the faith and acknowledging that it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel defeated. I felt that way when I go to China. It took me a few days to be like, okay, this sucks. Processing the anger, it's okay to take that time to do that. And then, like I say, I tell myself I have this many days to grieve, then back to work. Yeah. But you can't skip the steps there. You can't say, you know what, I'm just going to pretend like nothing wrong is happening. You just take the time to acknowledge the challenges and again, go back and try a little bit every single day. And I feel like it's the cumulative persistence of an action taken every single day in my life that has led me to where I'm at. And also not neglecting, I'll add, to any learning opportunities. For me, it was learning Mandarin was initially started as in like, why the heck will a guy from Ivory Coast learn Mandarin in China? It makes no sense. When for me it was a spiritual thing. God was like, you need it, you're going to need it. And now looking back, it's helped me professionally, and it's just created so many wonderful relationships I wouldn't have otherwise. Like I'll interview. I remember once interviewing in California for an internship or a job, and this person was Asian. They looked at my resume and was like, hey, dude, your resume looks good, but why do you speak Mandarin? That's what I'm interested in. It opens so many fun conversation, and especially Asian community, and going to Chinatown speaking Mandarin and having people just scream and like, why do you speak Mandarin? And it's just so much interesting. You can relate to people at a much deeper level when you speak their language. But I just think about all these wonderful experiences, and it's just because I've taken the faith and the belief to learn and not neglected anything along the way. Whether it's English, whether it's Mandarin, it's always the same story. It's okay. You never know when that knowledge is going to pay off. So as you're in it, don't neglect it. Take it seriously. Learn it. One day it's going to come full circle. And I am so glad I've taken the step to choose a hard path and then done the work to learn, because in the long run, it will always pay off.
So you post about Mandarin, but I read in your bio that you actually speak 4 languages. So what are the other languages that you speak?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess Mandarin came out because of the whole China stories. But yeah, French, born and raised, speaking it. And we learn English in school, but it's the ones I skipped the most classes, and then I was forced to learn in Ghana. That's why I keep saying, hey, take any opportunity to learn. I'll say you'll regret it sometime. And then I learned Spanish in school as well. So then it's French, English, Spanish, and then Mandarin. And I learned Twi, which is a local dialect of China in Ghana, which I don't speak very well. And I'm ashamed to say that because my African friends are like, dude, how do you speak better Mandarin than a non-African dialect? I was like, yeah, I'm ashamed to say that, but it is what it is. I should brush up on my Twi, and I still do understand it quite a bit. I was in Ghana recently, and now my next step is now to branch into my mom's language, which by the way, I was never a language person. I was the one that resisted learning languages because my parents spoke 2 different languages at home, and they were like, you gotta learn, you never know. And I don't need that. But now I'm like, okay, I need to connect deeper to my roots and learn those languages. But yes.
You are so intelligent, because I lived in Okinawa, Japan for 3.5 years, and I took Hangul for 2 years. But every time I would practice, the locals would want to speak English. And so I never really got an opportunity to practice the craft. And so now I really can't hold a conversation, but I still know how to ask questions, and I know the basic greetings. But I was very disappointed. I was like, I am paying, I think it was like 5,000 yen to go to these classes twice a week, and you guys want to speak English? And so the fact that you were able to learn it and to be able to retain it, that's really good. So that's good.
No, thank you. Thank you. I was in Japan recently. It's a fantastic place. That's probably another conversation, but I would love to learn more about your experience there. But one thing I'll say, though, is after about 4 or 5 months, maybe close to 6 months in China, I realized the same thing. Like, I was not making any progress. And I think the problem was we're international students, and from all over the world, we all spoke English there. And then when we were Chinese students, they all want to speak English. Then that's when I was like, wait a minute. I feel like my English is getting better. My Mandarin is not. So that's when I actually made a switch in my approach where I would force my friends to do 50-50. You speak Mandarin for 50% of the time, I speak English for a bit. And then I actually started interacting more with older people that had no interest in learning English. It was hard to understand them, but spending time with them really forced me to learn the language.
See, that's good because I feel robbed because I really tried to learn the language so that I could appreciate the culture and show respect and honor to the culture, but they was not having it. They wanted to speak English.
I felt that way too. I was feeling robbed too. Yeah.
So this is the final question that I have for you. Balancing faith, family, and business, it can be challenging. And so how do you navigate the equilibrium of it all in your own life? And what strategies or practices has been instrumental for you maintaining this balance?
Yeah, that's a really tough one because those aspects, like you mentioned, are so demanding. And I'll say the first thing for me is perhaps remaining anchored to the why. Why am I doing this? And that defines a lot of where I spend my time. For me, faith is important to me, and making sure pleasing God is very important. So that naturally leads to, okay, I need to spend time there. And then faith and family, I'll say business is important too, but I'll say faith, family, and business. But it's also hard to rank because sometimes each area requires you time differently. So I think the balance here comes from dedicating the most attention to what needs you the most today, while staying grounded in what matters the most. Because at the end, sometimes it's very easy, like I was mentioning, the rat race and all. It's like, okay, this job, there's all those opportunities that you can go after. But I always ask myself, okay, why am I doing this? For me, when I got here, first thing was I got to get my family in a better financial situation. So once I got to that point, and then again, asking myself, I could go after this thing, but why? Because there's always things that are going to come and hit you. There's always a lot of things. I think that has helped clear as I keep my plate clean and manage my time, because the why, okay, I could be a co-founder of this tech business, but why? Is it for the money? Is it for the fulfillment? And then when I look at it, if the money's not that important, then perhaps not. And the fulfillment, where do I get the most fulfilled? It's through helping others. Is this going to help me? I think it'll be a great tech product. I think I could help there a lot, but it's not perhaps the most valuable use of my time at the moment. And that has helped. I think I guess the principle I'm trying to derive here is perhaps saying no to what does not align with your why. It's probably the most important thing, is remaining anchored to the why, and then staying within those boundaries, because we're constantly bombarded for our attention all the time. And that's what I've been doing, which again, very difficult, but I try to stay grounded grounded on those principles as much as possible.
That's really good, because sometimes we can lose focus and then we can go outside of the will of God because we're pursuing those things that we feel like can give us instant gratification. And that's probably not what God has for us. My allergies kicked in, and so now my voice is trying to go out. So I'm like, okay. But again, you have been such a pleasure, and I had a great time speaking with you. And I know that my listeners are going to enjoy everything that you brought. And so again, if you guys want to donate or if you want to partner, the website is oneelevate.org. And so, Stéphane, thank you so much for joining. I really enjoyed you today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining. Please rate this episode and share this podcast with your family and friends. To learn more about your host, visit www.brooksdeming.com.
If you're looking for beauty that's simple, elegant, and wallet-friendly, check out J. Christine Beauty. From lip balms to primers, their products bring out your natural glow without the fuss. Head over to jchristinebeauty.com.